Howdy, howdy, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well tonight. Welcome back to Cause for Symptom. I am your esteemed guest host, Urban. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. Great. Everything seems to be up and running. Let me go ahead and check things over real quick. How's it going, Scorpion? Nice to see you, buddy. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Yeah, I'm just making sure everything's up and running. Got a lot to check out. How's it going, Boots? Nice to see you, buddy. Glad that you're here with us tonight. Let me make myself a little bit bigger, and then I will roll the intro, and then we'll talk about what I'm going to do tonight. First, I've had a few requests for something specific, looking into the Aquarian New Age Theosophy and how it's related to the last video that I did, which had to do with the vice of kings. The vice of kings has to do with basically enslavement through liberty, to put it very short. But that's a video that you guys should check out. I did that about a day ago. Uploaded it yesterday, and definitely a good video. Definitely worth checking out. And so tonight we're going to look into that a little bit. We're going to go through a few slides. We're going to talk about that, and I'm going to give you my thoughts. There was another video that popped into my mind, and seeing as I'm going to be with you guys for a couple days until next Wednesday, James will return next Wednesday, the 18th. Let me make sure that's correct. Yes, next Wednesday, the 18th, James will return. And so we have a few days. That means I can space this topic out. I don't want to rush through it, because a lot of what we're seeing now is has to do with this, and I think that's why a few people have asked me about it. Yes, Boots, thank you. You're always on your game. We greatly appreciate that. If you're watching this on whatever platform, I'm on a few different platforms. I'm on X, I'm on YouTube, I think BitChute, Odyssey. I'm on a few different platforms. So whatever platform you're on, if you're on Rumble, Cause for Symptom, if you're on any of my channels, please hit the like button, subscribe button. Feel free to participate in the live chats. I've got YouTube, I've got X, I've got Rumble, a few of them. Let me see if there's any more I can pop up. I think that's as many as I'll pull up. Okay, let me go ahead and roll the intro, and then once I do that, I will bring you back and we'll get right into it, guys. So stick around. Alrighty, guys, let me bring you up here. Let me put myself on. There we go. Alrighty, guys. Yeah, we're going to go through this. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. and give you my thoughts and explain. Primarily tonight, we're going to cover a topic called Synarchy, which is the antonym, means the opposite of anarchy. Synarchy. And we're going to talk about what that has to do. It is associated with the wonderful, wonderful Tavistock Institute. Seemingly the media is afraid to talk about that. They don't know that exists, or I think they do know that that exists, but they just don't want people to know that they know that it exists. Okay, so without further ado, let's get right into it. The Shadow Elite, Synarchy, and the Unseen Agenda. The Occult Origins of the New World Order, Psychological Warfare, and the Tavistock Blueprint, the Invisible Revolution. That's what this is about. Revolution, liberty, quote unquote, liberty. But it's gradualism. You tolerate, become tolerant of evil. Is what gradually happens. All right. So who are the people writing the script? It's a great question. What happens when the architects of reality decide you are obsolete? I think they've already decided that a long time ago. Who is writing the script? There's a bunch of different people writing different scripts, and they have to pay a lot of people a lot of money to write these scripts. But the end result is, if you were here with me last night, we did talk about this last night. They want to have one script. So what we're going to talk about tonight is, quote unquote, the secret doctrine. Has to do with Helena Blavatsky. You also have Annie Besant. You have Alice Bailey. And they come together to form something called the, quote unquote, Aquarian conspiracy for the age of Aquarius. But see, this has been planned for a long time. It's been planned at least back to the 70s. Before that. So, if you've seen any of my shows, if you've seen a few of my shows, you should have heard me talk about this idea of the law of three. And so that pops up here again, the three pillars. There's three pillars commonly when they put things together. 3 and 4 comes naturally out of 3. So how do you engineer a global empire without the masses noticing is gradualism. The answer is gradualism. Gradualism is the boiling of the frog. I talked about that in the other video that I did, the boiling of the frog. If you put a frog into room temperature water and turn the heat up, then it won't jump out. You know, if you put it into boiling hot water, it'll jump right out. And so that's kind of what's been done to us over a period of time. So the three pillars are the spiritual, the political, and the psychological. But in the Vice of Kings video, what we did discover was that there's a mythological significance to those three things. Typically, one would call them the nuclear family, but then that can be applied to society. Because the nuclear family is just the proton, the electron, and the neutron. You know, the proton's got a positive charge. The electron has a negative charge. The neutron has a neutral charge. And you get all those things together. The 4 is actually the atom itself. And so they're applying the same idea. That's the meaning of the 3 pillars. These are themes that pop up again and again. And again, they will continue coming up. So spiritual blueprint is this new age script, religion, programming, theosophy, quote unquote, the externalization of the hierarchy. People have probably heard of that plenty. Basically, that's a very fancy way of saying they don't want to hide anymore. They don't want to have to hide or obscure their rule. They want to do it out in the open, and that will happen when the people tolerate evil. Political Synarchy, which is again the antonym, that means the opposite of anarchy. So their idea of Synarchy is gradualism, the invisible revolution. Psychological, we're all familiar with some common psyops, Tavistock, mass mind control, which has only increased because I've seen as much with my own very eyes. Seems like so many more people than you would think have some form of this today. Colors are another huge one you see. We've talked about that briefly. It's a very common thing now, and that's unfortunate because something like at the end of World War II, they estimated that I don't know, 1 in 10,000 people in America had been affected to some degree by this, which was pretty big odds at the time, but now I would say probably 1 in 1,000 easy. Just because you have television, you have social media, you have phone, you have everything. You have everybody is connected. You understand this? If you go back into listen to old commercial or something like that, I like to watch old commercials and just see kind of what was going on in people's minds at the time. And so, I'll watch these be like some promotion from like the Silicon Valley back in the 90s or something, and they're talking about this grand design of networking and connecting everybody. And so they've really had this brewing for some time. So this is the quote by Manly P. Hall. Manly P. Hall says, "When the mob governs, man is ruled by ignorance. When the church governs, he's ruled by superstition. When the state governs, he's ruled by fear. Before men can live together in harmony and understanding, ignorance must be transmuted into wisdom, superstition into a quote-unquote illumined faith, and fear into love." And key point there, transmuted, that means willingly, has to be done with free will. I don't think that it can be done by communism. The other opportunity is you force everybody to go along with that plan. You say, we're going to live this way because this is the illumined way to do it, and so we're going to have you do this or else, basically. And so trying to force it upon man is the reason that every single time we've tried to reach the sky on a tower, it comes crumbling down. Every time. Things are not new. Same things have happened before. Nothing new under the sun. So there's Blavatsky. Theosophy, the secret doctrine. We're going to learn why is it secret. We're going to learn that in a moment. So the Theosophy is founded by Helena P. Blavatsky. It claims to offer the psychological key to cosmic creation. It posits that a spiritual hierarchy, or ascended masters, quote unquote, the high priests of the Illuminati, and there's always a new high priest, because there's always a circle inside of an inner circle. Always remember that, and we're going to get into that next, and that will be probably a theme for another episode, because I want to get into it in more detail. But these ascended masters, the ones who know the way, in the Wizard of Oz, follow the guy who has the dream. He's the one with the dream, is the ascended masters, what they believe. And so they follow this guru mythology. Whoever can build the best matrix. That's what it's about. It's about building the best matrix. So the Catholic Church comes along in the Middle Ages and they build this matrix. And they make sure that nobody can read the Bible. It's all in Latin. And so they've got a leverage. They've built a matrix, and that's why they're called builders, Freemasons. These ascended masters guide human evolution from the shadows. What that means is that it's a grand illusion. They feed this mythology to people, that there are these people behind the shadows. And it makes them kind of believe in aliens or some higher spirit being or something like that that's controlling things. And aside from demons, but let me back up just a moment, because there's a caveat to that. Cognitive electromagnetic weapons have been added to the NDAA. Probably heard about this. And so they go into a Congress and they say, hey, these weapons are designed to make people feel like they're going crazy. It's what they say in Congress. So what's the difference? Because if a demon can harass somebody inside their own head and, they'll get in their mind and make them crazy, and now the government can do that, is there any difference? Like, can you tell me what's the difference? Absolutely. That's absolutely the same. Best way that something that I had thought of the other day that I really liked, because there's nothing new under the sun, the devil has to continually find new ways to retell the same story. Has to continue to find new ways to retell the same story. Because it's in the details. The devil is in the details. That being, if you were to basically not have any ability to talk or anything, you just had to experience the world in silence, I guess you could say, in complete silence, that would be the rawest truth. And then, you try to tell somebody what you are experiencing, and to do that you use language, but some of the meaning gets lost. It's the devil is in the details. So the ultimate goal is what we're arrived at now in 2026, it seems, because Elon Musk is out here tweeting that we're already in the singularity. So I don't know what has prompted him to believe that, but they will probably be conducting themselves according to those beliefs, because crazy people do that just as well as sane people do, even though there's really nobody can point to what does that mean anymore. Like, what is crazy, what is insane, what is normal? But nobody knows anymore, it seems like. That's part of this plan, by the way, inversion. Because if they can't change the Bible, they'll just change the dictionary. That's how they'll just change the dictionary. Satan has ever existed as an adversary, the opposing power required by the equilibrium. That's truly how they see it. Simple as, to jump a car, you need jumper cables. And you have two jumper cables. You have a positive and a negative lead. And that's how they see it. So why is it a secret doctrine? This is where it gets interesting. Why is it a secret doctrine? So to pierce the veil of the world's esoteric and occult traditions is to confront a brutal reality. The entirety of human spiritual history has been engineered to deceive the masses. The architects of the so-called secret doctrine view the uninitiated public as profane animals. Profane animals. There's a word going around now, goyim, means the same thing. Means the same thing. Profane animal, it's the same thing. They explicitly quote the biblical injunction, "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine." To protect their monopoly. It's very important, their monopoly. This is a business. It's all a business at the end of the day. They talk a great game, but it's just a business. And it's great, Scorpion, it's great that you brought that up. It's great that you brought that up, because there was a great, let me see if I can put myself up real quick. There was a great quote that I heard. All of these guys are pirates. That's exactly what they are. And the interesting thing that they were able to achieve is that they were able to be the first pirates to achieve airplanes. They were the first sky pirates. And that gave them great, immense power. And that's what happened, during the first two world wars. And they made a lot of money doing that. A lot of money. They're still doing it. They're making a lot of money right now. And people in Congress are bending over backwards to defend against anti-Semitism. They're bending over backwards to make sure that Israel's okay. They're bending over backwards to see when they can take over Cuba. They're bending over backwards to get the oil in Venezuela. But if you're here in America, you're out of luck, buddy. You're out of luck. Good luck. It'd be so funny if it was not true. Okay, so to protect their monopoly on occult power, these hierarchies have weaponized secrecy. It's a big thing that I've talked about quite a few times. Secrecy, it is just like keeping the Bible in Latin. They keep the Bible in Latin because then the people can't read it. And when the people can't read the Bible, they have to listen to the priest. And then they make a lot of money. And then they build St. Peter's Cathedral, Basilica, St. Peter's Basilica. And it's beautiful, but it should, the way that I've come to understand it is like something that beautiful is inherently the product of such evil things. That's really the duality that they're talking about that was just mentioned. So let me take a drink. So to protect their monopoly, they use jargon, legalese. That's a topic for another night. Deliberate falsehoods known as blinds. I'm going to talk about blinds, and then the other ones we're going to get into in a few other videos because I've got more on that. So what are blinds? It's the most insidious method of concealing esoteric truth from the uninitiated is the use of blinds. And this is what actually Helena Blavatsky does talk about this. This is something that Blavatsky talks about called blinds. Blind is deliberately false, contradictory, or misleading information injected directly into an occult text that is likely to be read by the general public. So they poison the information is basically what's going on here. These intentional contradictions serve a dual purpose. They conceal the lethal realities of occult forces from those deemed unprepared, while simultaneously conveying hidden information to the initiated adept who possesses the key to decipher them. For example, terms like faith and sin are used as exoteric blinds to mask esoteric realities of light and substance. Similarly, the use of substituted colors, reversed symbol, inversion, reverse symbols, or altered planetary attributes are strategically employed so that the uninitiated reader derives a fundamentally flawed and magically impotent understanding of the universe. Occultists openly admit that nothing printed in public libraries or museums is truly esoteric without being mixed with these deliberate blinds, rendering the text useless or even dangerous to the profane. Albert Pike, the architect of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, explicitly confirmed this, stating that initiates in the lower blue degrees are intentionally misled by false interpretations, and that it is not intended that he shall understand them, but it is intended that he shall imagine that he understands them. That's what it's all about. And so, this is the term Mahon, the Master Mahon. It is master of the forbidden secret. The forbidden secret is essentially to murder other people for gain. That's the secret. And that means spiritually too, not necessarily physically. People do it for physically for plenty of reasons. My belief is, as Pastor Carner has talked about, breath, the breath of life. In short, it is the idea that it's life that is the rawest currency. That's the basis of all currency. And that's the idea of when Cain kills Abel. God says that the ground cries out with Abel's blood. So essentially, it's this giant spiritual mark. It's a stain on your spirit. It's a mark, a bad mark on your spirit. So Cain gets a mark, and there were currencies called marks. They used to have a currency. They were called marks. So let me go back. The title, Master Mahon, simply means Master of the Secret Combination. It's a Mormon term, LDS, which is interesting because Joseph Smith was a Freemason. He did say that he was given the top secret passwords that enabled him to finish Freemasonry. And so when he got killed, his final words were the Masonic distress signal. And a lot of people don't know that. It's first claimed, the term Master Mahon is first claimed in Mormon literature by Cain after making a covenant pact with Satan that's identical to the Freemason oath. Identical. So the point is that Cain basically had this pact that anybody who was in on the murder was to keep quiet, and that was the deal that he made with Satan, was that everybody will be sworn to secrecy, and then they are thick as thieves, is what they say. And that's where the term comes from, because there's something called the Gadanian robbers in the story, and they were an early example of this term, secret combination. So forming these cabals, swearing everybody to secrecy, getting dirt, and basically if you tell on me, then you get whacked. That's how it goes. And obviously, he makes a covenant and pact with Satan to kill for personal gain. Mahonism is a type of dark priesthood. It is the inverse, the dark side of fellowship and lifting people up and acting out of faith and love. So whereas you have faith, where people come together and help others do better or be in a better mood, lift people up out of love, charity, faith, all of that. On the other side, you have keeping the Bible in Latin to make money and hold power over people, and using that to start wars and manipulate currencies. That's what Mahonism is. It's absolutely. And that's I have plenty of subjects to potentially cover, but the deliberate dumbing down of America, I might have to show some of those videos, because those are very scary. Some of the things that I saw a kid try, like a picture book, like you have pictures and it's in like a book, and it's in your house and you like open it. I saw a kid try to zoom in like on a phone. He tried to zoom in, pinch to zoom on a picture. So yeah, Boots, definitely. They're not learning cursive. They're not even learning how to read anymore. It's getting bad, man. And the parents are just as bad as the kids. That's the scary part. That's the really scary part, is that it'll be like just any attempt to hold children to a structure on the part of the teacher, they will get pushback from all these parents, and the principals and the staff jump on them and push these stupid, enlightened, they've been illumined, so they have paid a company to decide this is how we're going to educate the children, and they have a background in venture capital. They have a background in venture capital. They're in private equity, and they're going to figure out how to educate the children by giving it to an AI algorithm. That's what they're into. So yeah, all right. Alice Bailey was interesting. The call for a new world order. They've been calling that for a long time, and if only people would have heeded that warning back in 1967. If only people would have heeded that warning. Bailey channeled the Tibetan master, outlining a concrete plan for a global control. The plan obviously was a new world order founded on recognizing the hierarchy of spiritual elites, basically basically it's this plan, the plan to get everybody to view them in a mystical sense, to get everybody to not view them as robber barons, as they used to be known as. They used to be known as robber barons, but they don't like that. And so now they're going to be the Illuminated Masters. Let's see. She eerily predicted the release of atomic energy and the use of the UN, the United Nations, to enforce this unified order. The target date for the initial externalization of these masters was 2025. 2025. Let me see if I have the clip handy, and I will play that because it's definitely worth playing. I think I have it here somewhere. It's one of those things where I can find it, and then when I need it, it's not there. One second. No, I can't find it. Okay. Find it in a minute, I guess. Okay, let's move on. 2025 was the start date. Synarchy. Let's define the term Synarchy. Again, I'll say it one more time just to make sure everybody remembers. Synarchy is the antonym. It means the opposite. Antonym means the opposite. So anarchy means everybody just does what they want and everybody just kind of does their thing, and we don't try to get on everybody and tell them what to do and that they need to do this and that they need to follow this because we put it in the law. Synarchy is the opposite of that. That means that the Illuminated Masters would tell you what to do. They will tell you that war is peace and that freedom is slavery and ignorance is strength. And they'll tell you that basically we're going to own nothing and you're going to like that. And so they will help you. They will actually do half of that for you. How's it going, Philip? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Absolutely. Keep them from reading all of this information that we're able to learn together and share comes from reading. And that's what people aren't doing now. And that's probably, directly correlated to, each other, proportional. Yeah, they're going to help you out. They're going to do half of it for you. They were going to make sure that you own nothing. And all you have to do is you just have to be happy. That's all. And so they've really done you a favor. And that's how Synarchy works. It was conceived by the occultist Alexandre Saint-Yves d'Aldrine in the late 19th century. I believe it had to do, I have another text, which is not necessarily part of this tonight, but it's called the Initiating the Millennium, the Avignon Society. Now, Avignon is interesting. You don't ever hear it mentioned in public, but for a short period of time, the papacy in the 14th century, but it was of interest because this was the time the Knights Templar were suppressed. They burned the last Grand Master Jacques de Molay at the stake sometime in the 1300s. I don't remember the date. But nevertheless, around this time period, what had happened, because there was so much infighting at the Catholic Church at this time, what had happened was you have an anti-pope pops up. Now, interesting note, anti-pope. Anti, in that context, the Roman Latin context, meant kind of in place of. So an anti-pope had stolen the title. He was kind of pretending. He was a pretender to the throne. And so I have heard, interestingly enough, it does make sense to me, the term Antichrist. Use it in the same way, somebody who will pretend to be Christ. Or, in other words, will go into the temple, the church, and sit down and everybody will think it's Christ. To pretend to stand in place of. So nevertheless, there were, oh boy, but I'm glad you escaped that, buddy. But yeah, the papacy had picked up. They had picked up from Rome, and they had moved the whole Catholic Church to Avignon, France. And Avignon is a little town that's still got its medieval walls. I might as well show you because it's pretty cool, actually. Really, it does look like a medieval town. Let's see. Here, let me show you. This is actually the papal palace. This was the whole setup. Here, let me fix my screen. This was the setup that they had going. There you go. And they built this. It seemed like they had moved there for a significant period of time. This was about 100 years. And during that 100 years is when Jacques de Molay was murdered and burned at the stake. And the whole Knights Templar was dissolved. That's pretty funny, buddy. If that's what it took, bro, man. But yeah, it's such a quaint little area. I would love to see it in person. I'm trying to find a photo of the walls. Here's another of the God, I hate, they always give me the lowest quality photos. Let's see if I can find the wall. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, it's still got the medieval walls. There it is. It's so hard to get a high quality picture for some reason. There you go. Hey, put myself back. There you go. It's pretty interesting. How did that get there? Yeah, let's see if I can find the inside of the papal palace. Yeah, this was actually very interesting. It looks very beautiful, actually. So they were there for a while, and to put something like this together, to put this up and build all of this, something had brought them there. Maybe it was just this infighting, but my guess was that you have all these rival families, which Pastor Carner has talked about quite a bit. As a matter of fact, let's see. Carter's done all kinds of stuff on the bloodline. So if you haven't seen that, I think there's already a link in the description to the playlist on Rumble. He's done all of these bloodlines, and a lot of these were fighting at the time that they had moved the Curia to Avignon. Something interesting is that you can tell by these like the little cross shapes, those are they indicate allegiance. There's a lot of little things that you can pick up to indicate that. Frescoes. Yeah, it's really cool. So this is really if I had to guess, probably the best condition medieval castle. And here's the deal. It also raises some questions. When was this, like, do we have really good records on the dates, or it looks a little bit older and kind of throws the timeline off a bit for me, because you don't have many of these standing still. And back to what we were talking about, the Synarchy movement, it has a lot of origins in this town of Avignon. That's very beautiful. Let's see. Coat of arms. So the coat of arms has this crown at the top, which I don't believe I've seen that anywhere else. And the 3 keys. There's the cross right there. So the point about this is this has some special significance in Synarchy. There's a text called the Initiating the Millennium, the Avignon Society. Okay, so let me fix everything. Okay, carrying on. And yeah, I imagine French name, 19th century. I imagine that this was about the time, and yes, this was in modern times. I should have mentioned that. It was my bad. The Avignon, the area's definitely got an ancient history, but this was I'll say keels. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The keys are interesting. There's so many different possibilities. You could look at it from the 3 city-states, which makes sense to me, because that's actually interesting. It just dawned on me. There is, around the time of the Magna Carta, what had actually happened was that the Pope and King John reached an agreement. King John had signed a contract with the Pope that said, hey, if I do anything that you don't like, I will either obey the Pope, I will obey you, because England was Catholic at this time in like the 1200s. And so if the Pope didn't like what he was going to do, he signed that he would knock it off. If the Pope told him to stop, he would have to stop, or he would lose the crown of England to the Vatican. This was a legal agreement. And he did sign, and so it's seemingly legally binding, but nobody ever mentions it. It's a little bit of lost history. And so, around the 1200s and then 1300s, and the 100 Years' War was a big thing in history. It's kind of, I don't know, a lot of people don't talk about that either, but to be at war for 100 years had to do with the Venetians banking. They had been running a scam for pretty much all of the Byzantine years. The couple hundred years that the Byzantine Empire was strong, they were running all of the banking, and they had a Federal Reserve style system implemented at that time in the Byzantine Empire. And they were doing the same thing that they're doing right now. Loaning money, usury, interest. And what had happened is that the Byzantine Empire collapsed, so they had to move operations over into England and the city of London under the guise, because the England King John, or Edward the Confessor, had banned all Venetians, quote unquote Venetians, wink wink, from England. That ban was lifted after they had Oliver Cromwell come and take over England, and he was funded by the Dutch bankers. So it was a whole banking scam going on, and I imagine maybe they had packed up and moved the Roman Catholic Church over to France because they had a fallout in Italy because of that, because of all the nation states in Italy at the time. Um, I don't know, maybe that's why Elon Musk used the term Doge, because, you used to have the Doge of Venice. So, Synarchy, a totalitarian government run by an initiated elite or secret priesthood. They totally, completely oppose democracy, but they're going to help you out. They will make sure that you own nothing. All you have to do is be happy. Divides the population into strict caste, like the pyramid, caste like. Let's see, where's the pointer? Yeah, it's a pyramid because there's so many people at the top. Then there are a couple more people a few levels down. And the idea is that there's always a circle within a circle. It's the Russian nesting doll. It just has layer and layer and layer and onion. AWZ Ventures, NanoPass Technologies. Here, let me look it up. Yeah, I think I found it. This. Oh boy. That looks fun. Jeez. Oh yeah, that's interesting. There is the cog. It's interesting that that's popped up. All right. I'll have to find that and show you what the cog means in a minute. All right, let me go back to PowerPoint. Yeah, so they reject wasteful eaters, what do they call us? Worthless eaters, so they call us. So they reject that. They reject wasteful, violent revolution in favor of an invisible revolution from above. So that's a pretty easy way of saying that they don't want to do the dirty work themselves. Basically, they are, the all-seeing eye. That's exactly what it is, because getting into the theosophy, there is a term, or I guess you could call their Illumined Master that they are awaiting is called Maitreya. And so it would seem to me that this will be the central computer, the all-seeing eye. They're going to hook all of the Ring doorbells up to it. There's Elon Musk. We've entered the Singularity. So they think that Maitreya has showed up. And they're going to hook all of this up into one script. So they don't want to have different scripts. They don't want to have Democrat, Republican. They don't want to do that anymore. One script, they will give it to a computer. It will see everything. That is the war on God. That is their idea. If God is omnipotent and omnipresent and everywhere all at once, they will build a upside down quantum computer that looks like an upside down Tower of Babel. And they will just go ahead and build the tower right down to hell. But then, because they're so smart, so they think they're just going to invert the whole world, and it'll be going right side up. That's what they think. So. Yeah, the idea is to build a upside down Tower of Babel with this quantum computer and wage war on God by building their own all-seeing eye that can see everything all at once. And then, because they do realize that they're just building straight down to hell, and by that I mean they realize that they're blowing the world up. They just realize that they're making everybody miserable, and they realize that what they're doing is wrong. That's why they don't want to die. but they think that they're smart, so they're just going to flip everything upside down. They're going to make black into white. They're going to make insane into normal. They're going to make men into women. They're going to make good into bad. They're going to do everything in reverse. And they think that it will trick God, because they really think they can trick God. They haven't learned their lesson. All of these, they've done this so many times, and they just haven't learned their lesson. It's insanity. Back to the point that was made in last night's show. It's flat out insanity. Okay. Yeah, they use pacts, and basically they assume false identities, and they pretend to be something, but they're not really like that. They say that they're good Christians, or they're good Jews, or that they're good anything, but they're not really good. They're really doing other things. They've made secret pacts. They have sold their soul already, and they are not what they seem to be. But they can be anything. They can believe their own lies. That's what makes them dangerous. Synarchists are political shapeshifters. They infiltrate the left, the right, the fascists, the democratic institutions. They do all of them. It doesn't matter. They believe their own lies. Their watchword is expediency, converting top leaders to control the masses without their knowledge. This is interesting. This is interesting because you really will discover, if you watch enough of these, and you watch people kind of interact with each other, what you'll see is that it's almost like people do kind of participate, and they've almost become so unaware, like they try to dissociate it so much to the point that they check out, or like this. I think this is really where, like, I'm not somebody who has DID, so I'm only able to approach it trying to kind of think of how it would feel, or how it would, like I'm trying to empathize, or like kind of put myself in the shoes of it. So I believe that's where the split happens. That's where people are able to participate in evil, but when it gets to a certain level, like when it's so evil, like half of the mind just checks out, and I think they really are able to participate and lie to themselves so well that they're so insane that they believe that they're normal. And I think that's the inversion. That's back to the whole inversion thing I just talked about. Like, they're so insane, they really just think like they don't want to be alone anymore, so they'll just make everybody insane with them. It's what they're trying to do. Misery loves company. The ultimate goal is a United States of the West, leading to a one world government. And what has Mr. Donald Trump done? He's went ahead and taken over as many things as he can, or he target Cuba and then Venezuela, and now he's going to go to the Middle East, and then he's going to go to Greenland, and probably going to be another one. I imagine that there'll be something else that he'll have his eye on. It's just this. Here's all you got to remember. It's very simple. Anywhere in the world, you can name it. It doesn't matter. If you want something in the Swiss Alps, let's do it. But if it's here in America, it's not happening. You are not getting help. Nothing is coming your way. A methodical revolutionary has as his precise objective the modification of the minds and hearts of its citizens. By that, pretty much give me one generation and I'll change the world. That's what Lenin said. Tavistock Institute, these guys are great. Founded in London in 1920, it became the British Army's Psychological Warfare Bureau, partnered with the OSS and the CIA, which was connected to The Knights of Malta, nobody ever talks about them either. They have observer status at the United Nations, but nobody can ever tell us why do they have that. What do they do? We don't even know why they. Who are these people? What? I guess they just are there, and we have to accept that. But we're not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to. That's not mentioned. Yeah, so the OSS was connected to the Knights of Malta. Developed brainwashing selection procedures. An interesting story if you've watched the interview that I did with J.R. Sweet, who was actually a part of the monarch. Like he was raised in a generational monarch family. So I did an interview with him. It was a great interview, but he did give me a very good peek into how that step is done. They have to find people who have the ability to easily dissociate if they don't have the genetic marker. And that's part of why like the royals and stuff will inbreed so much. Part of that is a result of that. And he did say like he was raised to believe by his family that he was related to Henry VIII, distantly related, or that's how they raise their children. So what they would do is, in his case, they would take like him and his like siblings back one by one, and they would show like as a little child a hand, like a severed hand in a box. And so the ones that would scream, like normal people would scream when they see that, they are not interested in them. But the people who go blank, the people who just don't scream, they just kind of snap out of reality, those are the people who they pick for MK Ultra. And chances are, as it says, the Tavistock Institute came up with that, or God knows what else. There's probably other techniques, and they're probably just as evil. The thing about evil is that if good is infinitely good, evil is infinitely negative, chaos, void, vacuum, no good. So it's just, it always surprises you. It can always be a new level of evil. It'll always get more twisted. But again, there's up and down. So there's infinitely heights of good, but there's a vacuum. Their objective to engineer a paradigm shift, basically a global inversion, a paradigm shift to overturn existing assumptions about society, global inversion. If you control how people think, you control how they respond to reality. It's very true. Orchestrated chaos and psychic driving, the method to induce massive psychological stress in a population and then offer relief. Through repeated stress and relief cycles, the masses will become intensely suggestible. Tavistock spawned programs like MK Ultra utilizing drugs, hypnosis, and sensory deprivation. Break down the existing democratic constitutional institutions destroyed by spontaneously organized insurgency is their motto. Here's this threefold structure. See this right here? That's the plan that everybody's supposed to trust. Remember Operation Trust the Plan? That's the plan that everybody's trusting right there. Where occultism meets intelligence. Because, like, Michael Flynn, the general, whoever led the prayer, that was the spirit channeler. He took the word by word prayer from this spirit channeler and just had a bunch of people at the Trump rally just like recite it with him. So it's like, that's the plan that people are trusting in. Operation Trust the Plan. Theosophy provided the vision of a new age. Synarchy provided the political roadmap for the elite, and Tavistock provided the weapons to manipulate the masses into accepting it. The CIA and Occult Brotherhood sought the same goal, accessing the black box of consciousness to create a new breed of human. But the best way I ever heard it phrased was that it's a double-edged blade with no handle. Psychological weapons are a double-edged blade with no handle. Absolutely. They used so many tactics, and I think it was when people were willing to get this experimental thing that they had declared complete judicial immunity for, they were willing to do it for a cheeseburger. Some people even did it for a donut. Just saying, man. Some people even did it for a donut. And they're like, man, I think we can just release the Epstein files now. They're ready to go. That was like the, you have to make sure the frog is cooked. So you stick the thermometer in, take the temperature. And I think that's what it was. They were taking our temperature to make sure we didn't have a disease. Gangs, counter gangs, and the Quiet War. How do they maintain the illusion of freedom? Elite intelligence operatives control both sides of terroristic and political confrontations. Subdivide the population. Race versus race. Gender versus gender. Class versus class. The resultant atomized population that begs for a militarized, self-policing, fascist order. Today's echoes. The silent weapons. 1954 Bilderberg Group document, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Bill Cooper talked about this. Calls for mass control via manipulation of industry, pastimes, education, and political leanings. The United States were to be programmed to change and become so accustomed that it would be hardly noticeable. So I think we are living in the Aquarian conspiracy. There's really no question in my mind about that. And hindsight is always 2020. So what they say is hindsight's 2020, and it seems to be. Because why do we have people warning us about this? Since the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, Carner has been warning about it for a long time. I've been warning about it for a few years. And that's how you know, because hindsight's 2020. It's exactly what the conspiracy is about, and it's happened. A war on the individual. This is individual information. It's not just a battle for resources, it's a battle for consciousness. The shadow elite seek to replace organic human development with a technologically and psychologically enforced uniformity. A new normal, one script. They put the state in the place of that divine spiritual center. Rather, they're going to borrow the energy, and that's what you get in return for their helping you. Again, remember, they will make sure you own nothing, and all you have to do is be happy. And you're going to do that, and you're just going to do that for the low price of your soul, basically. Will we surrender to a morally indifferent irrationality or to tolerate evil? Infiltrating with knowledge. The elite rely entirely on the ignorance of their victims. Absolutely. Because then they think that they're going to use that as a way to trick God. Recognizing the neurotic map. Recognizing that it is neurotic insanity that they use against us is the first step to breaking the programming. Or as Kathy O'Brien says, knowledge is the only defense against mind control. Right. Absolutely. I don't know, man. The tacos, maybe, but they'll have to be environmentally friendly. Soylent Green or Soylent. Maybe they'll be like a Soylent Blue or something like that. And maybe they give you some flavors. Yeah, the Aquarian conspiracy. The Aquarian conspiracy. This is kind of a combination of information coming from Alice Bailey, we've got Annie Besant, and we've got Helena Blavatsky. And then I'm using the Aquarian conspiracy to provide kind of the framework to explain how it applies today. So it's not mentioned by Helena Blavatsky or any of the other authors. It's mentioned in the book, The Aquarian Conspiracy. So, because I think really what you're seeing, yes, absolutely. That's another one that was used to put all this together. The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow and The Aquarian Conspiracy. Those were basically, I view those as two books talking about the same thing. Both great books, and they provide a really good insight, but they're talking about the same thing. This is one giant, and by all means, Blavatsky, Besant, Alice Bailey, all of these people are talking about the same thing. For probably about as long as I've been alive. And it's because they've weaponized basically loneliness and anger. And they've isolated people. They've put them in horrible positions, made them have to basically kill themselves to survive. And that does nothing but radicalize people. And that's just the way it is. I mean, what do you expect to happen? And so either they're doing it on purpose, or these people are just so far removed from us, they don't even exist in the same reality as us. And so by all means, they're alien. How long have we had vaccines? We've had them for a very long time. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, recognizing that these people are crazy, and recognizing some of the steps and methods that have been used, and understanding, I think the missing piece that I would like to make sure that everybody realizes is that the end goal, that is my kind of contribution to this, I do believe that the end goal is to have, I think they really are so delusional that they are going to surrender some significant degree of autonomy to this central computer. Don't know how much of their own BS that they actually believe. That's a big question, and I don't know how to answer that question. I can answer a good amount of questions, but not that one. I don't know how crazy these people are. I think they're very crazy, very insane people. But there's some intelligence. And I don't think it's individual intelligence. If anything, it's intelligence of a group. Let me put it a better way. There was a book, or it was a book, I think, and this guy, single guy, tried to build from scratch, completely from scratch, a toaster. He was going to build it from scratch. So he went to mine the ore. He went to make the plastic. Like, he tried to do the whole thing from scratch, and it failed miserably. Failed miserably. And so the point that was kind of made was that no human can make a toaster, but these mega corporations that have hundreds of thousands of employees can somehow figure out how to make a toaster. And so it's not necessarily the intelligence of an individual. It's the intelligence of a group, and I believe that's what a principality is. A princedom, a principality, like a royal house, they call them princedom or principalities. It is a higher level organism because it doesn't, it's not confined to one life. You know, a corporation, a body corporate, which corp means body, it is something more than the people who comprise it. And there's a term called gestalt, which means that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And so, yeah, that's why I think it's very valuable to learn this stuff. I know that a lot of people, some people are not interested in it, but I've done quite a bit of work, and so I'm more than happy to attract the people who are interested in it. And if people aren't interested in it, then probably not. My content's not for those people. Fine, that's great. Wish them well. But I think that there is an active interest that people need to understand the basics. They don't need to understand everything I know or anything that anybody else knows, but they need to understand how the enemy sees them, that they have an enemy who does seek their destruction. And I can prove that simply. The ancient charm of the evil eye. The symbol is very old, the evil eye. It's that basically you've got a real enemy who's always seeking your destruction. It's almost like people are always going to be there to screw you over, so you need to kind of watch your back sometimes. Just like that's human nature. You can't go and leave stuff out where people will potentially take it, and then, you know, have that happen to you 50 times and not learn your lesson. Eventually, you can't leave your stuff out because you've had it taken a few times. And so it's kind of that, you know. But let's see, let's finish up. That's it. The blueprint is real. Historical, occult driven plan for global centralization does exist, and we're seeing it now. And I don't know how much longer people have to change course. The unfortunate truth is this. It is that no matter what, if there is a choice between good or bad, for the longest amount of time, people have forced a third option because they'll just refuse to make a choice. And so that's a very real logical issue there. If you can choose A or B, what happens if you just don't choose either? You just, you know, freeze. Yeah, the cog symbol. Thank you for reminding me. Let me find it. I've got it here. Yeah, I actually just came across that, and it's funny that that popped up. Let's see. Sorry, one moment. It's right here. Yep, got it. Here we go. Yeah, they could. That's true. Space dust or space spleef. Apple fritter sounds great. Okay, here you go. The rotary symbol is what it is called. The rotary symbol. Let's see. Fix my screen. Yeah, so the rotary symbol has been used quite a few different places. The rotary symbol, according to this, is the sun. It represents the sun. It's been used by the communists. It's been used in the French government buildings. Communists had a heavy use for the rotary symbol, it seems like. The Nazis also used the rotary symbol. If I had to guess, probably the base explanation being that the rotary being like they formulate this idea that they are going to bring about this new age through machinery. And, you know, when they formulate this plan, at least at that time, you didn't have much more than cogs, gears, and whatnot. So it does make sense that they were kind of the early technological cult. Like they were the people who were the Silicon Valley. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It has to do with just any type of probably the builders, Freemasonry, just this idea of building machinery. So as long as you have machinery, before. There have been different secret societies. There's been one for the eye. It was called the ocular or something like that. So they were fascinated with the human eye. They just have these fascinations, and I mean, some of them are, to be fair, very fascinating. And so what they do is, over time, these illuminated people, so the Avignon Society and whatnot, those people would have been the ones tinkering around, because they had the ability to sit around and do nothing, because they were either rich, or they were in the king's court, or they were nobles. So they were able to tinker around with this stuff. The Israeli military uses the rotary symbol. There you go. Yeah, people, that's another thing. You don't have to learn everything, but you definitely should appreciate the way that signs and symbols are about all we have to go by anymore. Now that information is so up in the air. And you don't really know necessarily what's real, what's fake, what's AI generated, or anything anymore. Here, let's see. Put myself up and the screen. There we go. Cool. Yeah, guys. So, I really think that this subject is a very broad subject. There's a lot that I could talk about here, and that's why I think I want to kind of space it out a bit. I think I also will probably show the Occult Forces movie again. I showed it to you guys once before. I can't remember how long ago, but it's worth watching again. It's not that long. It's an old movie from France. I think it's between World War I and World War II, but it's an old movie, and it has to do with this guy who's a member of the French government, and he gets brought into Freemasonry, and it will show you how he goes through all of these like they keep trying to get him to do these favors, and they keep trying to get him to use his position to do favors for other Freemasons. And it's a very interesting movie, and apparently the guy had been put to he was executed after he made the movie. So yeah, it's interesting. What is it? The Terra Rota means wheel of the law. But yeah, that makes sense. I see kind of where you're going there. Interesting. Good good thinking on that. But wonder how many were there yeah, there are 12 spokes on a lot of those. So you're right on the dot there. Good looking out on that. Very good eye. Some of them have different, but some of them have 12 spokes on them. Some of them have more, some of them have less. But I can tell you this, guys. I think I'm going to play you guys out with a clip, because I'm going to wrap everything up tonight. My throat is getting a little bit dry, and so I think that's my warning cue to wrap everything up. So, guys, I really hope you learned something tonight, even if it's one or two things. But I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show. I hope you guys found something interesting, and I found a few different things interesting that you guys showed me tonight. So I will return tomorrow. I'll be back again until Wednesday, next Wednesday, the 18th. Carner is going to be back then. And the clip that I want to show you is from it's a small snippet. It's only a few minutes from the 1967 recording. It was a recording that was put out on vinyl record, as a matter of fact, by a guy called Myron Fagan. And the recording is about 2 hours long, and it's worth listening to, honestly, the full thing. But I'm not going to play the full thing. I'm just going to play this clip for you, because it sums up a lot of what's going on now. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, guys. I appreciated everybody tuning in tonight. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share the video with any of your friends if you are so inclined to do that. And I will see you guys again tomorrow night. Thanks, Philip. I appreciate that. That sounds actually really good. I might try that. So thank you, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy.
Myron Fagan, one of the top whistleblowers in terms of Luciferian secrets, gave this plea to American Christians before his passing.
Now, do you know that the National Council of Churches passed a resolution in San Francisco which states that the United States will soon have to subordinate its will to that of the UN, and that all American citizens must be prepared to accept it? Is your church a member of the National Council of Churches? In connection with that, bear in mind that God is never mentioned in the UN Charter, and their meetings are never opened with prayer. The creators of the UN stipulated in advance that there should be no mention of God or Jesus Christ in the UN Charter or in its UN headquarters. Does your pastor subscribe to that? Find out. Furthermore, do you know that the great majority of the so-called nations in the UN are anti-Christianity? That the UN is a completely godless organization by orders of its creators, the CFR Illuminati. Now I have one more vital message to deliver. One of the 4 specific assignments Rothschild gave Jacob Schiff was to create a movement to destroy religion in the United States, with Christianity to be the chief target. Schiff turned that job over to Rockefeller for another specific reason. The destruction of Christianity could be accomplished only by those who are entrusted to preserve it, by the pastors, the men of the cloth. As a starter, John D. Rockefeller picked up a young so-called Christian minister by the name of Dr. Harry F. Ward, Reverend Ward, if you please. At that time, he was teaching religion at the Union Theological Seminary. Rockefeller found a very willing Judas in this reverend. Thereupon, in 1907, he financed him to set up the Methodist Foundation of Social Service. And Ward's job was to teach bright young men to become so-called ministers of Christ and to place them as pastors of churches. While teaching them to become ministers, the Reverend Ward also taught them how to very subtly and craftily preach to their congregations that the entire story of Christ is a myth, to cast doubts on the divinity of Christ, to cast doubts about the Virgin Mary. In short, to cast doubts on Christianity as a whole. It was not to be a direct attack, but much of it by crafty insinuation that was to be applied in particular to the youth in the Sunday schools. Remember Lenin's statement? Give me just one generation of youth and I'll transform the whole world. Then, in 1908, the Methodist Foundation of Social Service, which incidentally was America's first Communist Front organization, changed its name to the Federal Council of Churches. By 1950, the Federal Council of Churches was becoming very suspect. So in 1950, they changed the name to the National Council of Churches. Do I have to tell you more about how this National Council of Churches is deliberately destroying faith in Christianity? I don't think so. But this I will tell you. If you are a member of any congregation whose pastor and church are members of this Judas organization, your contributions are helping the Illuminati's plot to destroy religion and your faith in God and Jesus Christ. Thus, you are deliberately delivering your children to be indoctrinated with disbelief in God and church, and which can easily transform them into atheists. Find out immediately if your church is a member of the National Council of Churches, and for the love of God and your children, if it is, withdraw from it at once. However, let me warn you, that same destroy religion process has been infiltrated into other denominations. As a matter of fact, the Mormon Church is about the only one I know of that is clean of that kind of Judas infiltration. But of course, there are many individual churches and pastors who are honest and sincere. Find one such for yourself.
Which has now changed. Absolutely changed. At that time, apparently, he was pretty confident in the LDS church being clean, but that's not the case anymore.